Prompted by Great Britain's Intolerable Acts of 1774, the First Continental Congress of the United States took place during the autumn of 1774. The Congress was led by Peyton Randolph, a man who was later highly regarded as a revolutionary hero.
Randolph unarguably played one of the most important roles in the entire Continental Congress of the United States. He was so highly regarded by those of the convention that they all made it certain that they would help out during his funeral. Mind you, there were 51 other delegates at this Congress. That alone was enough to help out 2 funerals.
The members of the First Continental Congress met at Smith's Tavern, the political center of the United States. It was here that they would decide to use the Carpenters' Hall as their place of debate.
Believe it or not, that tavern is still up and running today, serving its many tourists.
Thomas Lynch of South Carolina proposed that the Congress should elect a president or chairman. This is when Randolph was unanimously agreed to become the president of this convention.
Randolph actually went on to serve as the president once again during the Second Continental Congress of the United States. Technically speaking, Randolph was America's first leader, and a perfect fit at that.
The Congress started out with the proposal of various responses to Britain's newly established Intolerable Acts. The Suffolk Resolves, the most popular of the resolutions, were quickly agreed upon. The Suffolk Resolves were drafted by Dr. Joseph Warren, later known as the hero of the Battle of Bunker Hill.
Joseph Warren is one of those people in history who doesn't get enough credit for what he did. Warren led the Americans to a victory at the Battle of Bunker Hill, which played a significant role in the victory of the entire Revolutionary War. The Battle of Bunker Hill showed the Americans that they had a chance at beating the British. It was a large morale lifter and helped the Americans in the victory of other battles. Warren's Suffolk Acts were also one of the many things that sparked the Revolutionary War, which of course led to our independence.
The famous horse rider, Paul Revere, delivered the Suffolk Resolves from Milton, Massachusetts to the Congress in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where they were endorsed on September 17th of 1774. The Suffolk Resolves established the Intolerable Acts as unconstitutional or void. They also called for British officials enforcing the Intolerable Acts to step down, making it clear that the arresting of American citizens by the British would result in the detaining of the British officials. The resolutions urged the leaders of Massachusetts to organize a discrete state until the Intolerable Acts were repealed and to refuse tax collections from Great Britain. The resolutions also directed the American colonists to boycott British goods and trade, and appointed and armed militia officers in Massachusetts.
The colonists wanted to get back at the British government in any way possible, even going as far as imposing the idea of a trade embargo against Britain from within the colonies. The framers believed that it was time the colonies gained their independence. In fact, the Declaration of Rights was one of the largest accomplishments that had come of the First Continental Congress.
The Declaration of Rights was adopted by the Congress on October 14th of 1774. The document declared that the American colonies had the right to revolt or start a revolution. Along with this came the Bill of Rights, the document that later became the basis of the American Bill of Rights and aided Jefferson in the creation of the Declaration of Independence.
The Declaration of Rights was perhaps the best document the Congress had created and served as a great response to the Intolerable Acts. However, the framers were not finished. They actually had sent a petition to King George III asking to repeal the Intolerable Acts. A respectful petition, but a petition nonetheless.
This petition, the Olive Branch Petition, created by John Dickinson, explained the colonists' views on Britain's Intolerable Acts, an impressive and unnecessary act. Dickinson was known for his many pieces of literature, including the Olive Branch Petition sent to King George III. Dickinson was capable of writing down the many ideas that laid the basis for our country, granting him the title, the penman of the American Revolution. Despite the colonists' hatred towards the Intolerable Acts, Dickinson's petition was kept respectful, simply addressing the king's grievances.
The colonists had felt loyal to Great Britain, so they wanted this letter to reflect upon that. They wanted to continue the reconciliation with the king. They had just asked that the Intolerable Acts be repealed.
The king, however, felt much different than the colonists. King George III was open to rebellion and disapproved of the idea of reconciliation. In fact, the Congress had never received a response back from the king.
Without a response from the king or some sort of compromise, the American colonists and the British were sure to conflict. One of the accomplishments of the First Continental Congress was actually setting up a date for the second meeting to talk about the relationship the colonies would have with Great Britain at the time, which was assumed to be negative.
As the First Continental Congress of the United States concluded on October 26 of 1774, delegates had planned to reunite on May 10th of 1775 in hopes of a better situation.
The framers were well aware of the potential for war against Britain, but they were not expecting the war to start as soon as it did.
War had broken out in Lexington and Concord, and the colonies needed a plan. Thus, the Second American Congress had begun.